Hey, welcome to Guided by Faith. I'm your host, Jay Holland. Encouraged that you're here halfway through your week. Hope it's a good week for you. So far, so good for me as well. Let's dive into what we're going to talk about today. This week, we are exploring the idea of faith and following Jesus, the marks of a true Christian, the marks of a true believer. I want to go back to a verse that I read at the beginning of this week. It's in James 2:19. And James is really poking at people who claim to believe in God, but there's nothing in their life that actually looks like it. They claim to have faith, but there's no actual works that follow it up. And in James 2:19, he says, "You believe that God is one, you do well. Even the demons believe and shudder." And so this is a pretty powerful verse. It's something that it's just kind of crazy to think about. Theologically, there's very few beings in all of the universe more sure that Jesus was the Son of God than Satan and the demons. More sure that Jesus died on a cross than Satan and the demons. More positive that he rose from the dead than Satan and the demons. They know this, but they don't belong to him. And it's something that I just want to explore for a couple of minutes. We need to talk about the difference between knowledge and faith. That's knowledge and faith. And so I use the example, I've had a lot of opportunities in the last bit to share the gospel, and some of this has happened at funerals. A lot of it's happened in some public schools in our First Priority Club, and then in FCA events. And I talk about how, especially in the United States, and even a lot of places around the world, we know a lot about Jesus. Almost everybody knows that Christmas is when we celebrate his birth, even though, in case you don't know, Jesus was not born on December 25th. It was just the day picked to celebrate it. People know that Joseph and Mary were Jesus' earthly parents. People know that Easter is when we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus because he died on a cross. There's lots of other facts that people know about Jesus. And knowing about is not the same thing as knowing. In the same way, the illustration I use, LeBron James. Yeah, I could say, I know LeBron James. I know he was born in Akron, Ohio. He played for the Cavs, and then the Miami Heat, and then the Cavs, and now the Lakers. I know that his son made it to the NBA, and that's the first time a father-son have played in the NBA. There's all kinds of things that I know about him. But if you were to go to LeBron James and say, hey, tell me about Jay Holland. He knows nothing about Jay Holland. At least I don't think he does. I don't think he listens to this podcast. He knows nothing. Why? Because I don't actually know him. I know about him. And in the same way, there's a difference between knowledge and faith. Knowledge and faith. And you may be to the point where you believe that Jesus died and rose again, but your faith is not trusting in the death and resurrection of Jesus for your salvation. Some of us, this is really interesting, I think. Some of us have faith that Jesus died and rose again to save us for all eternity, but we don't seem to have the faith to trust him day to day to day. And isn't that amazing? Like, we're going to trust this story of his death and resurrection and conquering the grave and conquering sin and death, that it's good enough to when I die, this is what's going to take me to heaven. But the whole idea of Jesus as King, Jesus as Lord, that Jesus, if I truly follow him with my days, that he will equip me, empower me, and give me the most abundant life possible. Well, I just don't have enough faith to believe that. So there's knowledge. I know all of this stuff about Jesus, and there's faith. Faith is when you put your knowledge into action. It's like right now, you can't see it. Well, I'll put it up there. If you're on YouTube, you can see I'm sitting in a chair, okay? The difference would be if I'm standing up and I'm looking at the chair and I say, all right, yeah, I believe that this chair, I know chairs are designed to hold people. This chair looks like it's well constructed. I believe it could hold me. I'm still in the knowledge stage. It's not until I sit down in the chair and I put the weight of my body in the chair that I'm showing faith in the chair. And in the same way, at some point, you've got to stop saying, yeah, I know, and you've got to put your trust in Jesus. You put your trust in Jesus for eternity, but you have to trust that if you will follow him today, he will lead you into that most abundant life. Now, abundant life is going to include suffering. Abundant life is going to include trials. Abundant life is going to include doing hard things. But abundant life includes walking with Jesus through all of those things. It includes having the best story possible and having a story now that is useful, that is powerful, and that it sets you up for the best eternity possible. So I just want to close out today asking you to look at your life and just determine, am I living in the knowledge stage about Jesus, or am I living in the faith stage about Jesus? And maybe a real practical thing. What is something that I know to be true that I have not yet acted on in my faith? And how can I take that next step of faith? I know it to be true, or I know God would want me to do it, and I have not done it. And the way that I show faith is to act on it. That's what I want you to do today, because we don't want to just know about Jesus. We want to live a life of faith in Jesus.